Horseshoe theory is the fallacious idea that all of the complexity of politics can be boiled down to a one-dimensional left-right spectrum where the two opposite ends actually have more in common with each other than with the middle between them, and that true freedom can be found as a compromise somewhere in the center. And if you only know about fascists and communists from Western World War II historical propaganda, it actually sounds like it kind of makes sense. Hitler was bad, Stalin was bad, the Nazis were bad, and the Soviets were good actually until the Cold War, at which time then they became bad, and the point is that communists are on the extreme left and fascists are on the extreme right, and they were both bad, so ultimately they are just extremism and crazy, and it doesn't really matter which side you're on, and the answer must be somewhere in the middle between them. Right? Wrong. It can actually be debunked pretty easily with the fact that even the Soviets fought alongside the Allies in World War II against the Nazis, and with the Overton window, which shows us the natural conclusion of horseshoe politics, or enlightened centrism, which I will go over in another video. So the Nazis were authoritarian, and the Soviets were definitely authoritarian, and they were both bad, eventually, anyway, so you can kind of see where it makes sense to call everyone on the extreme left and extreme right basically the same, right? Especially to those who see themselves as kind of in the middle. Well, it doesn't actually, so let me tell you why. First of all, economics and the government are linked but not intrinsically the same. Social and economic, political and religious, values can vary greatly from person to person, and an individual's personality and belief system is infinitely complex across limitless axes, but broadly speaking, most people can be mapped along two axes, the left-right economic axis and the up-down political axis. People on the left and right economic axis can often agree with the political views with others on their side, but not always. For instance, Joseph Stalin and Emma Goldman, the famous anarchist feminist, would agree that capitalism is an oppressive economic system, but they do not agree on how to fix it. Stalin was an authoritarian socialist, while Goldman was a libertarian, or anarcho-communist, or just anarchist. Now wait a second, you might be thinking. Doesn't the left wing mean big government and the right wing mean small government? Well, as I just said, anarchists, who, contrary to popular belief, just agree that all hierarchy should be self-evidently justifiable and private ownership of the means of production, capitalism, is an unjustified hierarchical system, are very much on the left, but definitely do not believe in the state, so could never be considered big government. But just as the left has everything to do with economics and nothing to do with politics, it's the same with the right. Surely George Bush and Ayn Rand are die-hard capitalists, but you definitely wouldn't call the Patriot Act small government, now would you? Recording the conversations of your citizens and other countries' citizens without their permission or knowledge is not exactly what I would call small government, now is it? But, as I said, not everyone is an extremist in the corners, or even completely in one quadrant. As you can see from this wonderful picture, which I could not find the artist for, otherwise I would credit them, and if anyone does know the artist, please let me know, and I will credit them in the comments. Both Fidel Castro and Margaret Thatcher had pretty incompatible views on economics, but are kind of wishy-washy on the whole big versus small government thing. I actually think personally that Margaret here belongs further down by Ayn Rand, being that along with Ronald Reagan, she was a huge force in neoliberal personal responsibility, austere, privatize everything, laissez-faire capitalism, but she still believed in some form of government. After all, she had no problem living under a monarchy just as long as the markets were free, she would be happy. So as you can see, economics and politics are linked but not the same. There are in fact infinitely many axes of opinion that any one person can land on, but broadly speaking we can graph them onto two. Economic and governmental, which is why when we just use the 1D left-right spectrum coupled with Cold War logic, it can look like the left is pro-government and the right is anti-government, which simply isn't true because of people like Emma Goldman on the left and old tap your phone's W firmly on the right. Fun fact though, if you do insist on going so broad as to just classify people as left or right, then it would make more sense to use a fishhook shape rather than a horseshoe one, because liberal centrists will pick far-right demagogues like Trump over even marginally left social democrats like Bernie Sanders, and this I will actually explain in part 2 of this video called The Overton Window. So now you know. Next time you hear someone unironically using horseshoe theory, don't listen to them. Bye!